A charity that supports women with endometriosis is facing a backlash after appointing a trans woman CEO.
Endometriosis South Coast helps women who suffer from the painful condition of the womb, which is where tissue similar to the lining of the womb grows in other places. Well, their new CEO is Steph Richards, who's a Labour activist and a trans woman.
Joining us now is Maya Forstater, Executive Director of Sex Matters. Thanks for joining us, Maya. I barely know where to start here. I've got nothing against trans women. They should do any old job they like, I guess, and live the lives they want to live. But here we have an organisation dedicated to a very painful condition suffered by people with wombs who are otherwise known as women, biological females. Why would an organisation devoted to endometriosis appoint someone who doesn't have a womb, a trans woman? Why would they do that?
Honestly, I think they're trolling us. That's what I thought when I first saw it. They're a very small organisation, and they appointed Steph. They didn't advertise the role. They invited Steph to become the CEO. So I think in some ways they wanted this reaction, is all I can think, because this is a 70-year-old man, and I'm going to call him a man, and I'm going to call him he, who, he's not a gynecologist. He's not a man who is an expert in this field. He's a man who wants to be treated as a woman, and that it's just inexplicable, other than to cause this reaction.
Yeah, Maya, we get stories like this coming thick and fast, both here and the other side of the pond, around the world, frankly speaking, in the West. What I don't understand, what I'm failing to understand, is where this is coming from. I mean, 3 years ago, there was no conversation about pronouns, there was no conversation about trans rights. A woman was a woman, a man was a man. Now everybody has to walk on eggshells about it. People are losing their jobs over it. Who is it sitting in some sort of corridors of power somewhere deciding all of this stuff? Why is it happening?
It's been a long time coming. I think you're right. I mean, I lost my job over this 5 years ago, so and I was paying attention to it about a year before that, and it's been 20 years or more in the making. They've been changing laws and changing policies so that organizations that ought to be able to say this is something that's just for women aren't able to. And so now it's come to the surface, every sport, every service that should just be for women, services where they're just talking about women. So, if you're going to talk about endometriosis, you ought to be able to say that's a condition that affects women. But instead, this charity is saying it affects people, and the only person they're willing to call a woman is Steph. So all of this is coming to the surface relatively recently, but the changes in the law have been 20, 30 years in the making.
But it's rubbish to say it affects all people. It doesn't. It affects women, biological females. So my question to you, Maya, is why are they doing this? They're going out of their way to appoint a trans woman to this important job, and I would suggest it's just crazy virtue signalling, trying to tell us how wonderfully woke they are and how unwoke we are. And that is to the detriment of people who might have benefited from this endometriosis charity, is it not?
Absolutely. It's an insult to women. And it will, it's not just this small and it is a very small charity. It has about £8,000 a year income. But having this trans woman now as the CEO means that he will be invited to women's health forums, women's sector forums. He is a Labour women's officer, I believe. So it's a colonisation of everything that is retained as being for women. And that, there's not many things in life that are just for women or just for men. Most things in life are for either sex. And as you say, so if someone's trans, then it shouldn't be a problem. But that, sports, prisons, refuges, women's healthcare are just clearly areas that are not there for validating a man's identity as a woman. They're there for serving women and keeping women safe.
I mean, the problem for me, the indicators here, and you know, we've read information about this before, is NHS hospitals in some trusts are now asking anybody, male or female, if they go to have an X-ray, could you be pregnant? But also encouraging trans people to come forward for things like cervical smear tests when they don't even have a cervix. And then data collection as well on women's health issues will now be distorted because some people register themselves as men. This actually has a real-world medical effect, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, if the NHS, which it is doing, is not collecting data on who is male and who is female, then they don't know who to invite for a cervical smear test or who to ask, are you pregnant? It's just ridiculous. And, you know, if somebody's recorded as being non-binary, nobody looking at their computer records knows what sex they are. Of course, if they meet them, they will know straight away what sex they are. But big systems like the NHS work on what you have recorded in the computer records to know who to invite. And all of that has been messed up terribly. It will harm people because if you have decisions that are being made by artificial intelligence, for example, they're going to go with what's written down in the data, not with common sense.
Indeed. And where are we at with the NHS? I mean, the NHS, as Alex said, you know, they want everybody to say whether or not they're pregnant. I can't wait for when I go for an X-ray. I mean, it's correct to ask women if they're pregnant, because an X-ray can affect the unborn child. I can't wait for them to ask me when I go for an X-ray. Hopefully not too soon. But when they say that to me, are you pregnant? I'm going to take a wild guess. Who is it, Maya, that is making these rules? Right. I think they're sexist. To call women people with cervixes or people who get pregnant or people who menstruate is anti-women. This is what this is about. This is rampant sexism, is it not?
It absolutely is, and lots of these institutions, you know, they've invited Stonewall in, for example, to look at their policies and tell them what they should do, and another, like there's an NHS one that's specifically for healthcare now, and they go around telling hospitals, are you asking everyone their pronouns? Are you asking everyone if they are LGBT? You know, even if they're coming in for tooth X-ray or whatever. And, you know, do you have enough posters on the wall with rainbows on them? That's not what patients want. That's what these external organisations want. And also, you know, there are groups on staff. So you have these LGBT ally groups now within every hospital.
Maya.
It's always Stonewall.
Maya, we've come to the end of the show, I'm afraid, but thank you so much for the time. Great to talk to you.